Okay, all right. Well, welcome, Harriet. We'll be doing a little talk today as part of Mental Health Awareness Week. And this is part of our series at MoreYoga, where we are leading projects around raising mental health awareness through yoga. Yoga is a healing tool. And as part of Mental Health Awareness Week, we're really reaching out to so many voices and other organisations that are also have mental health on their agenda. And obviously through sort of colleagues and friends, we've kind of, our paths have crossed and we've been put in touch. So if you'd just like to start saying a little bit about introducing yourself and your work, it would be lovely to hear from you.
Yeah, hello. So I'm Harriet. So my work, the reason why we've met is because my husband and I founded a mental health charity called Milestone. And Milestone is all about normalising the conversation around mental health and using the cultural currency of sport to do that. So we're specifically targeting people who obviously have an interest in sport, but we're finding that that's obviously going down the men route predominantly. And so we really want to open up the conversations, particularly in males, around their mental health and try and bring that kind of dressing room culture into a mental health talk, because everyone's so supportive and really bolstering up other people when it comes to sport. And whether you've done well in your performance or you've done badly, people often come around to support you, but then it doesn't extend necessarily into the mental health space. So that was sort of our aim. So I've co-founded that with my husband. I'm also a yoga teacher. So I was my husband went through a journey with depression, and I think just through my experiences with my own depression and my journey to yoga, I was very aware of what was going on with him and trying to guide him into the therapy path. Which fortunately, everything has worked out rather well. So yes, that's sort of a little bit about me. I'm also a lawyer.
The double life you lead.
Yeah, I'm a city solicitor, so that's my other life. But I'm also on mat leave because I've just had a baby.
So juggling a city lawyer, being a yoga teacher, and a mother.
Yes,
wearing many hats.
With the greasy hair underneath.
Oh, that's allowed. We're all in lockdown here, it's fine. Harriet, I'm really interested, you said about dressing room culture, because I was reading on the Milestone website a little bit about what that means, and I'm wondering how that sort of translates. And also it made me think about the yoga studio and the yoga culture as well, and actually, how we do that.
Yeah, I mean, I thinking about the yoga community is so sort of tight-knit, isn't it? I mean, teachers come across each other, and it doesn't feel like there's this sort of competitive aspect in yoga. And I think people are far more aware when they're doing yoga about their breath, being mindful, maybe taking time to meditate, working with their practice on any given day. And I think how we want that to sort of transcend into the dressing room is, again, that openness, that community around those more sensitive issues, whether it's I've spoken to a lot of yoga teachers about my my struggles, how I'm feeling about my practice, how I'm feeling about my life, and by bringing in that same sort of community into the dressing room, we're hoping that people might speak to their team about this kind of stuff. And we've come up with this concept of Team Milestone, in the effort to bring people together to sort of connect and communicate and breathe this kindness that we need more of in our life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I'm really hearing is also that sense of belonging. Like, how do we belong to, whether it's a team, a group, or a community, and how do we feel accepted enough to then voice what's going on for us?
Exactly. Yeah. Belonging is such an important part of connection, isn't it? And it can feel so lonely and isolating, particularly in the times that we're in, if you're not feeling part of that community. And that's wonderful that we have these things like Zoom and things to make that possible.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about kindness, and I suppose, of course, that being the theme for Mental Health Awareness Week, I'm wondering, what does kindness mean to you personally, and how do you practice it?
So I suppose kindness, when you think about kindness, you automatically think about being kind to other people, don't you? It's sort of that, oh, I did a nice thing, I was kind to that person, maybe in this environment I went and got someone shopping. So, but there's that old adage that comes to mind of do unto others as you would do to yourself. And I think that's what people think about with kindness. But I think it's quite important to reverse that adage and say, do unto yourself as you would do to others. And the reason why I say that is because I found it so easy to support friends, to support, my husband in these times of strife, whether that's be, breakups, addiction, overcoming just general adversity. I feel like I can be a good friend to them, but I can't be a good friend to myself a lot of the time. I struggle with, I have struggled certainly with forgiving myself for feeling in a particular way, and how I've learnt to deal with that and to sort of come full circle and give myself more kindness is through practices like yoga, through meditation, through breathing, but also just acknowledging how I feel on any given day. So I was, the most recent example I can think of being kind to myself was giving up breastfeeding. So my daughter, she didn't really take to breastfeeding, but I was absolutely desperate to do it because I had this vision of, I'm going to be this wonderful earth mother who's going to be, lobbing out a boob in public and just feeling really comfortable around this. But she didn't like it. That caused me a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. I was desperate for it to work, and I was trying all of these things, and I was crying relentlessly, just getting so stressed, so worked up, until I said on Saturday, just the Saturday just gone, enough. Forgive yourself for not being what you wanted it to be, and be kind and accept that this journey has gone down a different path.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. I just did a little post on Instagram about my breastfeeding journey, and the amount of kindness I received back of people telling me, you've done so well, well done for sharing this, well done for doing what you've done. It was so heartwarming to see all of these, friends and strangers coming together to support around this one issue. And I'm sure that applies to so many different areas. So I suppose kindness means, to me, it means being kind to others in the way that you can be kind to them, whether that's supporting them or helping or just connecting with them. And then it's also just acknowledging your own feelings and being kind to yourself in that regard.
I think what I'm also really hearing there, Harriet, is about how we can sort of fall critic to society's expectations, whether that's sort of personally, identity, our roles and our relationships, and the traps we fall into around the shoulds. I should be doing it this way, and then the pressure that we put on ourselves. And actually, when we come to that impasse or crossroads, it's like that act of kindness allows the forgiveness, actually, the forgiveness and acceptance in a different way.
It's so difficult because we're living in this culture of scarcity where there's all these corporate slogans of, do more with less, and that puts an awful lot of pressure on people. And it can create a lot of shame as well if you're not achieving that. So I think rather than thinking about, goals, it's nice to think about things as value. So what do you value rather than what do you seek to achieve? Yeah.
And meeting yourself where you're at, knowing that your journey might be different to others, and also that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And do you think there is a correlation between kindness and mental health? I know we sort of touched on sort of various experiences of mental health already.
I absolutely do. There's obviously the science behind it that, if you keep doing random acts of kindness, I've seen articles about it in this sort of this space that we're in at the moment. It releases endorphins, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, all of that, good juicy science stuff. But I think if you're not kind to yourself and you're not kind to friends, if you fail to do that, it might create a sense of shame. And I know I've just mentioned shame, but I think it's so important in the mental health space to keep coming back to this concept of shame, because, as an example, I didn't support my friend when she had a breakup. I feel bad about that. I'm going to beat myself up about that for goodness knows how long. Those thoughts will keep coming back to you. I'm not a good enough person. I didn't do enough. Or in another space, maybe it's when I was 15, I snogged someone when I had another boyfriend or something. I did something that I now perceive as wrong, and it's about that again. That creates that sensation of shame, and maybe that's something that you can sort of trap. It can be trapped inside you for a long time, and then suddenly it comes out as, oh my God, I've been feeling this way for such a long time, and it's never really surfaced. So I think there's that kind of shame for not being a perfect version of yourself. And I suppose, what am I trying to say? There's a reason why there's so many people who sort of sell these positive affirmation cards, and there's a reason why yoga and meditation and mindfulness has come into the fore. It's to try and encourage people to be kinder to themselves in order to help their mental health. And it's just so important to everyone to engage with their feelings, sit with them, rather than trying to shut them down. Be kind to yourself, to not allow the bigger feelings, that almost that angel and devil on the shoulder. Listen too much to the devil and the angel gets numbed out. I think it's kindness and mental health come hand in hand.
That really resonates with so many therapy conversations. It's taken me back into the therapy room, and how almost like the inner critic is overactive, like it's loud, it's noisy, it's default. And so often for many of us, our sort of inner soothing system isn't nourished enough. And we don't either commit or have or prioritize the time to kind of, be giving ourselves that sort of inner boost, that, in the same way we would water a plant. It's like that sort of inner nurturing that we need. Okay, so Mark Rowland, the Chief Exec of Mental Health Foundation, said, now more than ever, we need kindness in our daily lives. So how do you think that we can cultivate more kindness in our daily lives, especially during this pandemic that we're in?
So I suppose what's natural about everyone's experiences in this pandemic is that you're going to have a roller coaster of emotions, I think, every day. So you might have a day where you're feeling maybe really angry about the uncertainty, or maybe it's that you're fearful about catching the disease. Maybe it's sad about not seeing friends and family. Maybe it's just kind of numb. You just want to sit and watch Netflix for 3 days on the bounce. All of these feelings are okay to have. And I think that a way that we can cultivate kindness to ourselves in this is accept that the experience that we're all going through is completely new, but it's a great leveler. Everyone's in the same boat. I'm sure that a lot of people will have at some point during the last however many weeks we've been in lockdown been feeling one of those emotions. And as I said before, sitting with those emotions, acknowledging that they're there. Don't try and shut them down. Don't let that sort of that kind of old, I suppose, that generational showing vulnerability is weakness. We don't show vulnerability. We don't talk to people about how we're feeling about these things. Yes, we do. I think it's really helpful now to speak, and I think people are increasingly happier to talk about how they're feeling. So maybe if you're feeling angry one day, maybe that manifests itself in talking to a really good mate about just something that's, something that happened at uni that was really hilarious. Maybe that's how it happens. Maybe if you're feeling, I've had days where I've completely numbed out and I've just sat and watched Grey's Anatomy for God knows how long. Still a great show. And I've then thought to myself, the last thing I want to do is go to a yoga class. I don't want to go to a yoga class. And I've gone to that yoga class and I have realised, oh my God, that was the best thing I could have done. I feel so energized. I feel so much better. I feel like my thoughts and my, that voice has been shut down a little bit more. So yeah, cultivating self-kindness in this environment is so important. And there's so many ways that you can do that. But the first and foremost is just to accept those roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah, I really, really hear that actually. And as much as this sort of crisis in some respects is really polarizing in terms of our personal situation, our finances, our job security, the uncertainty that sort of as life is kind of presenting itself, it's almost like he said, the leveler is that we are all on this roller coaster, that at any given day, whatever emotion is presenting, it's going to be chucked off course the next. That completely sort of destabilizing. So with that idea of connecting with others, how can we be showing kindness to others around us at this time?
Well, I suppose it's that connecting with your community has been a great thing I've found. There are, I think, 100 houses on my road, and I think before COVID, I'd probably spoken to my direct next door neighbours. We've set up a WhatsApp group. Everyone's willing to, giving their belongings away. That seems to be a popular. Who wants to, I've got.
They're giving them a good clean first.
Everyone's doing their spring cleaning. People going to the shops for people. maybe saying, oh, my elderly mum lives on this road, would anyone mind just standing outside of her window and having a chat with her? And those experiences, you know, they're so rewarding for yourselves as well as what they give to other people. So, you know, in that way that you're being kind to someone else, you're also just watering that little kindness plant that lives inside you too. And so one of the ways that I'm cultivating sort of that kindness to others at the moment is things like, you know, all of my mum friends, all of our mat leave has been completely turned upside down. We had visions of ourselves sitting in restaurants, bouncing our babies on our laps, you know, just chatting away. All of that's completely gone up in the air. So every week I organise a mum's call. Whoever can make it comes. You know, I've organised yoga classes just for free for my friends and family, just to connect with them, just to see them. You know, it's not, I'm on mat leave, so I'm not trying to do too much, but even just that, it's giving something back to me because I enjoy teaching, but it's also giving something back to them because they're taking a little bit of time out of their day to do some, you know, something really mindful and really nice, hopefully.
I'm really hearing this community connection and actually creating that in a different way to what was expected. So finally, one of the sort of main aims of Mental Health Awareness Week is to cultivate a kinder society. So I suppose we've sort of touched on thinking about community already, but in what way do you think kindness can transform the world?
It's a big question.
It's a big dream. We dream big.
What I find really interesting about this COVID, which, as you say, in some respects is really polarizing, you know, financially, whether people have, you know, even just things like whether people have got gardens or outside space. But what it has done is it's brought everyone back on a playing field where there's uncertainty. There are all these emotions that we're going through. Everyone has that fear, probably. Everyone has sadness, probably. And I think, as I said, that's the leveler. And it takes us away from that divisive society, that we were living in beforehand, where it was, you know, Brexit. We'd had, you know, 3 elections in 5 years, where everything was so, you know, them and us. That sort of culture was being created, and I feel like as a result of COVID, we're all relatively on the same wavelength, and everyone is seeing those acts of kindness in their community, whether it's maybe their community within their road, whether it's maybe within their friendship community, maybe it's within their work community. Everyone's seeing more kindness. And I suppose the hope is that by all of these small acts of kindness that happen within COVID have this compounding effect for kindness in the future. And prioritising conversations around mental health, prioritising conversations around, I suppose, acknowledging feelings and that's so important in, you know, workspace for people who are suffering with stress and anxiety. I feel like this COVID is hopefully put that back on the map, and moving away from this culture of scarcity that I feel that we've otherwise been in.
Yeah, I really hear that actually the crisis is impacting us all, and there's, you know, there are differences in our experiences, but there are huge similarities as well, and it's so striking that it's not just on a street within our community, it's global. And actually a response to that requires a collective change, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's why I'm really enjoying social media at the moment. I'm getting so much more out of it, I feel, because I'm not seeing that look at my perfect life as much, you know. What I'm seeing is people saying, I feel rubbish today, or I've just done a yoga practice of 5 minutes because it's all I had time for, because I'm trying to juggle work, kids, housework, all of that kind of stuff. And actually really connecting to other people on social media at the moment, just because, as you say, it feels like people are generally in the same boat, and it's not that, you know, look at me in Mykonos drinking a strawberry daiquiri. It doesn't seem to be that vibe anymore. It seems to be, look at how I'm coping. Perhaps you can take inspiration from this coping mechanism for yourself.
Yeah, it's almost shining a light on making our inside lives a bit more visible, really. And as much as isolation is enforced, that speaks to needing more connection and coming together. And that seems to really been sort of an essence, like that connection and belonging from our conversation today around actually how to practice more kindness. to help another. Okay, well, it's been really lovely speaking, Harriet. How do people either connect with Team Milestones or find you as a yoga teacher?
Yeah, so we are www.teammilestone.co.uk is our website, and then follow us on Instagram at milestone.uk, and then you can also follow me on Instagram, which is yoga.harriet. That's me, Harriet with 1 T, 2 R's. Yes, so get involved in Team Milestone. We've got loads of exciting events coming up for when we're eventually allowed to come out of lockdown. It's going to be lots of, bringing together, making that connection with other people, and getting the conversation around mental health as loud as we can get it.
Brilliant, wonderful. Okay, well, thank you everyone for watching. If you've come this far, we hope that you enjoy our programme for Mental Health Awareness Week, and continue to follow us at MoreYoga, particularly the More Mind project, which beyond 1 week is continuing to bring mental health into the conversation, raise awareness, and particularly using yoga as a tool for healing. Okay, thanks everyone. Bye bye.